Okay. All right.
People listen.
Good morning, Zach.
10. 10.
Good, didn't see you sneak in.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty stealthy.
Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, everyone. It is April 5th. This is the meeting of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners. Gentlemen, we have the agenda in front of us. Is there a motion to approve
moved,
the
Mr.
agenda?
Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Wincher to approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion prevails. We have an agenda. Gentlemen, we have some employee recognition this morning. Mr. LeBlanc?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Works Director is going to introduce our latest addition to the team.
Fantastic. Good morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony.
Good morning. As you know, I'm the Public Works Director. This here is Kyle Muncy. Kyle started a few weeks ago. He's our newest engineering technician. So he'll be working with me and then our engineering staff on the road construction projects this summer and then design here in next winter.
Harvey, welcome to
Welcome,
board.
Kyle.
Welcome aboard, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you, I
We
appreciate
met a
it.
couple weeks ago, didn't we?
We did,
Yes,
we did.
yeah, on the road.
Yep, yep. Yeah, thank you guys all for the introduction, I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to working with all you guys.
Thank you.
What song
you're
did
here.
you decide to sing?
You know, Matt warned me about that, and I still did not come up with one, so my apologies.
Awesome.
Thank you,
We're,
Kyle. Welcome aboard.
We're happy you joined the team here at Morrison County.
Next time, just say you'll follow Tony's lead.
Back up. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Kyle.
Gentlemen, at this time, we have a number of proclamations. April is a busy month, and this is a busy week, too. So our first proclamation is for Public Health Week. Good morning, Brad.
Yes, the first proclamation is Public Health Proclamation. It is Public Health Week, and so I'll let Alicia introduce herself, and she's going to read the proclamation.
Good morning, my name's Alicia Lane, I'm a regional dental coordinator here.
Good morning.
And the proclamation for Annual Public Health Week 2022, whereas the mission of Morrison County Health and Human Services is to enhance the health and well-being of all Morrison County residents and communities by providing quality services that promote healthy behaviors, prevent disease, protect from harm, and assure access to quality health services in collaboration with community partners. And whereas the vision of Morrison County Health and Human Services is to assure that every individual has the opportunity to achieve and maintain an optimal level of health and independence and to lead a vital, productive life. And whereas the Morrison County Board of Commissioners are working toward a community whose citizens reflect physical, emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And whereas the many programs provided by Morrison County Health and Human Services benefit all county residents, whether directly or indirectly, and these programs are essential ingredients of a healthy population. And whereas the Morrison County Health and Human Services Department must continue to reach out to those in our community who seek assistance. And whereas the Morrison County Health and Human Services Department must continue to promote community health and educate residents on the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. And whereas Morrison County Health and Human Services declares to continue to identify local public health priorities and implement activities to address the areas of public health responsibility, which include assuring an adequate local public health infrastructure, promoting healthy communities and healthy behaviors, preventing the spread of communicable diseases, protecting against environmental health hazards, preparing and responding to emergencies, and assuring health services. Therefore, be it resolved that Morrison County and the Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the first full week of April annually as Public Health Week.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire
Second?
and a second by Commissioner Wilson to approve this first full week as Public Health Week. Any discussion, gentlemen?
I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. These past 2 years have been difficult on everybody, and with your help, it's made it a little bit better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
The staff do have a couple of things planned for this week, healthy breakfast twice, today and Thursday, and then they've worked on some posts around public health activities for our Facebook page and working with Tabitha on that. So staff have done a good job in preparation, so thank you to them.
Thank you, Brad. Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Thank you, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia.
I believe Katie and Logan are going to come up now, and I think Child Abuse Prevention Month is the next proclamation.
Good morning.
And I'll let them introduce themselves and
Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board. Katie Knettle with Social Services. And to read the proclamation, here we have Logan Swensford, who is part of our Morrison County Family Connections team, which was formerly our child abuse team, but in the community sense. So, right, they're not doing child protection. So we renamed so that it's a little more inviting for our community members.
Cool. Good morning. Fantastic. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have here a proclamation for National Child Abuse Prevention Month here in Morrison County. Whereas child abuse and neglect continue to be a problem within our society, and whereas April has been declared National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and whereas Minnesota has initiated many efforts to promote child abuse prevention programs within counties, and whereas Morrison County has promoted such programs and recognizes children and families are an important part of our society, needing the support and protection of our community. And whereas Morrison County recognizes the dedicated work of community professionals, neighbors, and extended family that provide great assistance to prevent and intervene in cases of child abuse and provides supports to parents. And whereas special thanks are given to the Morrison County Family Connections team and the interagency members for their efforts, funding, and provision of parent education and support through Circle of Parents Support Group, social media parent education on Facebook, and the child abuse prevention curriculum provided to schools in Morrison County. And whereas Morrison County Family Connections team recognizes and supports the efforts of parents, extended family, friends, and neighbors of children to provide a safe and loving environment for those children. Now therefore be it resolved that April is hereby declared Child Abuse Prevention Month in Morrison County.
Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion on that.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson and a second by Commissioner Lemire to declare April as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Morrison County. Further discussion? Further discussion? Commissioner Wincher.
You know, this child abuse, we have the sexual assault, where all these, this is what our county does here. And again, I just want to thank, moving forward, that what everyone does here, because this is a combined effort. So thank you for the work that's done here.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Pretty much the same thing, outstanding with, people wonder often, what do our taxes do? This is what our taxes do. They take care of people. And these are people, that's what we're talking about here. So truly, to you and to the staff and to everyone, thank you.
And just to emphasize what Commissioner Wincher said, it takes a community really when you talk about what we do in child protection, and the community child protection team is an important partner in kind of helping us support our kids and families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Katie.
Gentlemen, all those in favor of this proclamation and this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? This proclamation is passed.
Did you want to take a picture after all four proclamations? I forgot to
Yeah.
have Alicia stick around, so I'll have to pull the color back down. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the ladies here. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Good morning. Will you please introduce yourself for the tape, please?
I am Lindsay DiMatteo. I am the Sexual Assault and Volunteer Coordinator.
Stephanie Ock, Executive Director.
Taylor Hernandez, General Crime and Child Abuse Awareness Prevention Coordinator.
Thank you.
And you are all from Hands of Hope, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning.
All right. Whereas sexual assault is an intolerable, violent crime with public health implications for every person in Morrison County, either as a victim, survivor, a loved one, or a community member. And whereas the voices of those who have been victims of sexual violence must be heard through public awareness and education activities. And whereas in fiscal year '21, Hands of Hope Resource Center served 72 sexual assault victims in Morrison County. Of those 72, 22 were children, 29 were adults, and 21 were secondary victims. And whereas every 73 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes, that victim is a child. Nearly 93% of juvenile sexual assault victims were assaulted by someone they know. Excuse me. 34.2% are family members, and 58.7% are acquaintances. And whereas no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual violence on their own, and the Board of Commissioners joins Hands of Hope Resource Center in believing that all Morrison County residents must be a part of the solution to eliminate crimes of sexual violence. Now therefore, be it resolved that Morrison County and the Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2022 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in honor of all Morrison County residents who have made a conscious and dedicated decision to end sexual violence.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher and a second by Commissioner Jelinski. Further discussion? Gentlemen.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
I'm looking at the numbers, and I just heard you say them. Every 73 seconds, talk about something that's pretty scary. And then, every 9 minutes, and I go on, nearly 93%. It's scary. However, and I realize that you're one part of one gigantic team, but you're an extreme important piece to that one giant team, because very often people come directly to you. If they don't come directly to you after law enforcement is there, law enforcement gets you involved and they come directly to you at that point. And I know you follow them through the court proceedings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you very much for what you do. Tough stuff. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson, anything?
I would just concur. Thank you for all you do. I wish we didn't need to do it, but I'm glad that you're there to help, so thank you.
Yes, thank you, ladies, for being here this morning. Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second to make April Sexual Assault Awareness Month. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion prevails. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, our last proclamation here, we're going to ask the sheriff to come forward with staff as it is this week as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Renee.
Good morning.
So we'll get going. First, I just want to introduce Renee Wenner, one of our dispatchers, 32-plus years of experience. A lot of experience sitting next to me. And then we got Victoria McKissick. She's got 27 years in public safety, law enforcement, and the past 7 years as our communications supervisor / emergency manager.
Thank you, ladies, for being here this morning.
Welcome.
With that, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas Morrison County dispatchers efficiently coordinate emergency services for both man-made and natural disasters to ensure the health and safety of our community, and whereas public safety dispatchers are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety dispatchers are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and first responders by monitoring their activities by radio and providing them information ensuring their safety. And whereas while enduring shift work and frequent emergencies, Morrison County dispatchers continue to perform their duties in a dedicated, diligent, and loyal manner. Now therefore, the County Commissioners of Morrison County do hereby proclaim, in conjunction with the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, the week of April 10th through the 16th, 2022, Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and commend the devotion, contribution, and services of the professional 911 communications dispatchers who serve Morrison County.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, a second by Commissioner Lemire to approve next week as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
speaking from firsthand experience and looking at firsthand experience, I worked with Renee for a lot of years. Today it's telecommunicators. Yesterday it was dispatchers. We're probably always going to be dispatchers. But the fact of life is that it's Telecommunicators Week. And why is it Telecommunicators Week? I don't know that I have to tell anyone. There's a whole lot more to it than a radio. There's a whole lot more to it than a telephone, a computer screen, and on and on and on we go. For the people that are the unsung heroes, you're right there. Thank you.
Further discussion? Commissioner Wilson.
I want to thank you too. I know that the dispatchers, you know, they're kind of like a conductor in an orchestra. You know, they're involved in everything that happens on a scene. Sometimes when people call things in, they're excited and they calm you down, and they really have to orchestrate the whole thing that's going on. I remember a tape that we seen in that St. Cloud shooting at the mall and stuff, and how you guys really conduct everything that's going on. I really thank you a lot. And I know it's a tough job. I can't imagine somebody calling in with a child dying or something, and you have to walk them through that procedure. So I thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you also for your work, and we can't, even as commissioners, fully understand the stress that you guys go through on a daily basis in providing this service, you know, to the people of the county, the people of the state of Minnesota. You know, I've heard there is a television show out there that you know, that is kind of based on this type of work, and we see the entertainment industry sensationalize a lot of things in the world. We don't need to sensationalize real life events and real life stress to understand. It's because of our lack of fully understanding what we do that we sincerely say thank you for those hours that you're behind the desk there. So thank you again. Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails. Thank you.
So if all those who have received the proclamation approval today, if you come behind the board for a photo, please.
We're doing one at a time, or
Gonna do one at a time or all?
each one? Yeah, because that way they each got their own thing.
So, let's just move together, what the heck, yeah. I know they're gonna want you to center.
Now, Zach, make sure you get the right award with the right picture.
I don't know which. Oh, yeah. Very true. Looks good.
Smile a little bit. Do your teeth.
When does he have to move?
Randy?
Yeah.
He's all right, I think.
Oh, look at that. I'm centered.
First time for everything.
Yeah.
Smiles. Got it.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very
all
much.
Very, very, very kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. All right. That's, works for me.
Good morning.
I'm not too picky. You go right
it back.
Yep, and you hold up your proclamation, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Yeah, that actually,
Come on, Renee, don't be afraid to come up here. We'll get one of just you. No.
Hey, bet you did.
Once a year, we're gonna make
come on. And this is your thing.
Thank you.
Right here.
Ready? Perfect.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, hands of hope.
Proclamation winner has to be kind of in the middle.
Get center somehow.
Ladies, you gotta shift a little this way.
There you go.
Yep.
I can duck down too if you want.
There you go. Good job.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks very much, ladies. Give me some of your bug juice here.
Smelly kind.
Cheap vodka's better than none, I guess. I don't know, I don't drink.
Gentlemen, on the agenda, we're at the point where we have the consent agenda. I'll ask if there is any member who would like to have anything pulled from the consent agenda for consideration.
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wilson, anything?
Nope, everything's good.
I do have one question as far as the consent agenda. I'm not asking to have anything pulled, but I was asking for clarification or definition, and I think I'm thinking this might come from the Health and Human Services, but I had a question about what is the Girard program, or and I apologize, I should have marked this when I went through the warrants, but I want to believe there was a disbursement to what I believe is called the Girard program, or the Girard. Can you help me with that, Brad?
It's a facility in I want to say Albert Lee, but I'm not sure. Is it Albert Lee? Right down there somewhere. And I'm not sure if it, because we have a child placed there, or because they're providing some in-home services, because they're also part of Nexus.
Okay.
So it's either due to a placement or an in-home service.
Okay, thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate that. Gentlemen, is there
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. A motion
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve the consent agenda. Further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none. Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. All those voting in favor, the consent agenda is passed. Next on the agenda, gentlemen, is the Health and Human Services report. Brad, thank you for staying
Thank
up here. I see Katie is going to join you this morning. Good morning again, Katie.
And Katie did a great job of putting information together for the board. Again, Child Protection Services is one of those core responsibilities for Health and Human Services and the protection of kids. And I think it's important for the board just to get a sense of what the activities are and where we're at. So I'm going to turn it over to Katie. Thank you.
Good. Good morning again.
Good morning, Katie.
So I just put together kind of a summary of of really the 2021 year and looking at our child protection and kind of the span from the beginning of when reports are made all the way till the closure of our case. So I'll walk you through that. So, as you can see on this first slide, our reports with a little dip in 2020, which I attribute to the pandemic and schools being shut down and kids not going in for, routine doctor's appointments and things like that early in the pandemic, we've kind of had a steady increase of child maltreatment reports. And so, again, those reports can come from mandated professionals, so that would be like doctors, therapists, teachers, people who are mandated as part of their profession to report any time that there's concerns with children. These reports also come from family members, neighbors, friends, parents, things like that, who also have a concern for children that they come across in their life. Once we receive maltreatment reports, so what did I say? 951 of them we received last year have to be screened within 24 hours. And so when we screen those reports, we match those with state criteria that tells us if a report should be screened in for child protection response or not. And so the vast majority of those are screened out. 15% of those, however, are screened in, and once they're screened in, then we make a decision about if they are open for investigation or family assessment, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But for those, the majority in the green there, when they are screened out, we sometimes offer voluntary services. And so some of the things we offer, one of the things that we offer is Parent Support Outreach program, which we refer to as PSOP. Tabitha, if you want to go to the next slide, that one explains. So PSOP is a program that's available to families where there's a child who's either 10 or younger, or if the mother is pregnant, and they have a couple of risk factors in their family, such as chemical dependency, poverty, homelessness, things like that. We can offer services to the family. It is grant funded, and so we can assist families with whatever barriers that they might have. But the goal ultimately is to keep them out of the child protection system. And so it might be that they don't have transportation, and so therefore their kid's not getting to school on time, or things like that. So we can assist in a variety of ways. Last year we were awarded over $32,000 with PSOP funds, and we served 32 families. Another voluntary service that we offer is minor parent assessments. So those are assessments we complete anytime someone under the age of 18 gives birth in the county. Generally speaking, we don't work with those families long-term. What we find is the majority of those young women are supported by their families, and so they're often living with their parents and don't need a lot of assistance from us. We did have one case this year that was longer term. That wasn't the situation for that young person, and so we provide then longer term services. But the goal is to go in and make sure that they are in fact connected, they have what they need to be successful in parenting that child. And then the Extended Foster Care Program is another voluntary service. This is kind of at the other end of the spectrum. So when we have youth who are aging out of foster care, so they turn 18 and they are still in foster care leading up to their 18th birthday, there is the Extended Foster Care Program is available to them to continue in foster care until the age of 21. And what that means is it may look that they're in an actual foster care setting and we continue to pay for that, or we're working with them on independent living, and maybe they're set up in their first apartment or a dorm if they're going to college, and we can assist. Again, this is grant funded. The youth has to be cooperative and willing to either attend school or work 80 hours a month minimum in order to be eligible for this program. So right now we probably have about 5 youth that are in that extended foster care program. So back to the reports that we screened in, that 15%, when they open for assessment, we had 146 of those last year. The majority of those are our family assessment response. And so there's two tracks in child protection. Traditional investigations are kind of that route I think that people think of most commonly when child protection gets involved. That's when we work a cooperative investigation with law enforcement, we record our statements, there's a potential for criminal charges. That's that yellow section, that's about 26%. The vast majority is family assessment. And so those assessments are done generally without law enforcement. We're going in, we're not on a fact-finding mission about did this occur or did it not. It's how can we move forward and make sure that things are safe for your child or children. And then our smallest percentage of assessments was facility investigations. So those are when we receive reports like on a daycare or a licensed foster home. If there's a maltreatment allegation, then we have to open it up for a facility investigation, and there's a different kind of process for that. Ensuring, again, that children are safe in whatever setting that they're being cared for in. So as you can see, neglect continues to be the primary allegation when we are screening in child protection reports. Neglect also encompasses a lot. It includes our drug cases, usually, or most of our drug cases. It includes if kids aren't going to school. It includes if the home conditions are so unsanitary that it's unsafe for children. So that encompasses a lot, which is why it attributes to the majority of our assessments, followed by second by physical abuse and then sexual abuse. Threatened injury. What that means is if somebody was a terminated parent, so they lost custody and the court deemed that they're palpably unfit to parent, and they've had subsequent children. Or if you have a person who is a registered predatory offender, they haven't necessarily hurt this child, but they have had those convictions in the past. Just being around another child, whether that's a new baby or maybe they have a significant other now that has a children, that's what threatened injury is. The child hasn't actually been harmed, but there's the threat to that based on the past of the caregiver. So one of the requirements that DHS sets out for us is that, again, we have to screen our reports within 24 hours, but then once we do that and determine the track, there's also timelines for when we need to see children. So those family investigations, so the traditional response have to be done within 24 hours. So we have to see those kids right away to ensure that they're safe or make a plan for how, in fact, they can be kept safe. The family assessment ones are done within 120 hours. So we have 5 days to connect with those families. It's not as urgent. We don't have to, make anybody miss work. We can be a little bit more planful in our scheduling with those. So with those timelines of 24 hours and 120 hours, last year we had 198 child victims that we had to see, and we met that requirement 197 of the time. So we missed one child due to a situation where the parent was kind of dodging us. But other than that, we have really pride ourselves in making contact early and planning for safety with parents.
And I'd just like to make a comment on that too, because we have been at 100% or 99% for years because of the good work of Katie and her staff in coordinating, planning, because sometimes you have to get law enforcement to go with you. And so it takes a lot of coordination, and especially when you get 2, 3, 4 reports in a day. So Katie and her staff have done a great job ensuring that we meet this standard.
So the goal of our assessments is to correct any concerns that were brought to light in that original report or things that, we may have discovered through the course of our assessment. The vast majority of those assessments are concluded in the assessment. So the goal is to have those assessments wrapped up in about 45 days. For the most of the time, we are able to do that with parents. We are able to talk about whatever the concerns were that led to the report and, close up and get out of their lives. For some families, they need longer-term assistance. And so that is when we open up case management services beyond the assessment. So last year, we had 59 cases, which we've remained pretty steady over the last 5 years. With those cases, we have, there was 22 of them that weren't involved in court or in placement. So those were families that were just willing to work with us on correcting the conditions as long, as needed to kind of make sure that their kids were safe. There was 4 that were involved in court, but we didn't have a placement. So sometimes if we have a safety concern and families maybe don't agree with us and we still can't ensure that that child's safe, we get court involved. But again, we use placement as as the last option. And so there are times that we are involved in court and there is not a placement. And then the majority of our cases were placement cases once they open for case management. Like I said, most assessments don't open for case management, but those heavy hitters do, and that's kind of our biggest caseload with the case management cases. There's also requirements with case managers. So just like the assessment workers have to see children within those first either 24 or 120 hours, case managers have to see every child on their caseload every month. And the state mandates us to do this at a percent of 95%. Last year, I went and counted through, and there was 628 monthly contacts that needed to be completed, and my case managers completed every single one of those. And so they are seeing their kids, they know what's going on, whether these kids are with their parents or in foster homes, they are maintaining regular contact.
And again, kudos to Katie and her staff, because that is a lot of work, again, to coordinate. And you're generally working with people that may be trying to avoid you from time to time. But staff do a good job in building relationships and connecting with their families.
So as a result, there were 61 children in foster care due to maltreatment last year. As you can see, there was about, ooh, mine's really shaded. I'll have to look at yours because I'm like, which number matches up? So the relative foster care is about split with non-relatives. So about half the time we have kids going with relatives. Thankfully, because our foster homes are full, and so we are grateful for the relatives who are available to care for family members, and that's often much less traumatic for children. And then we have about 10 cases that are with non-custodial parents. So if the home that we are removing from, parents aren't together, and maybe the other parent is in a position where they can care for the child. We have non-custodial parents that really weren't involved in their child's life before. Maybe they weren't allowed by the custodial parent, or they had something else in their life that previously prevented. And once we become involved and seek them out, we've been able to have some kids go with their non-custodial parent in lieu of going to foster care. And then as far as our final outcomes, all those kids that were in placement in 2021, this is just kind of a breakdown of coming into this year now where they're at. So 9 of them were reunified with their custodial parent. 11 were actually transfer of custody to either that non-custodial parent or another relative whom they had a close relationship with. We had one youth that aged out, so they turned 18 in the course of the year before any permanency or reunification was able to occur. And then we had 18 children whose parents' rights were terminated, so they become state wards and are free for adoption. I talk about that in the fall in more detail, but the vast majority of those have been adopted by relatives as well. And then 22 of those kids still remain in care because parents have timelines to work in, so they have 6 to 12 months to work on reunification. So a lot of these kids that were placed in the latter half of 2021 are still working their case plans with our social workers. What questions do you have for me?
So first, Katie, I'll say thank you for this is a very comprehensive and a very good report for us on the board. And I want to say thank you for your leadership and your accountability for your staff and the work that you do and the successes that you have, I know has to be attributed to your commitment and your hard work, and your ability to get your team to follow your lead in that manner. I think this was very helpful. I do have one clarifying question. Early in your presentation, you had a screen that showed 953 cases to be screened. And then later in this, we're down to where you had shown 197 of 198 of these cases were effectively screened. Why the difference there? Where does that 953 transition to about 200?
Yeah, so 953 or 51 was the number of reports that were made to our agency. So that could have been the neighbor calling or the teacher. Those are all the reports we received.
Okay.
And then we only screen in about 15% that meet the criteria. So when we line that up with the state statute, those are the ones that say, yep, these fit. This is, in fact, this is in need of child protection response. So then it's boiled down to closer to 200 that were actually contacted by my assessment workers, and an assessment or investigation was completed.
Thank you for.
Just to clarify one more point, there's 197 victims, so some of those reports had more than one child that had to be seen. So that's why the 197 is more than the number of cases we've worked and less than the total number of intakes we received.
Okay, thank you for that, Brad. So Katie, I mean, you shared with us, this is a significant amount of work and a significant amount of contact with residents in the county. Number of staff that you supervise that are helping you address these needs here in Morrison County?
So I have 8 staff really that are doing these contacts between assessments and case management. So there's some share responsibilities, but I have about 8 that are doing all of these contacts that I just talked about this morning.
Well, I'm going to ask you to extend our gratitude to your staff and for their hard work in addressing this issue. Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you. Katie, and of course, thank you, and your staff. But I'm looking at this as in a big picture, maybe even a bigger picture. This team that we talk about, and you've got a team, there's not a question. This team is huge, because where does the team start? Does it start in a school? Does it start with the neighbor? Does it start with a 911 call to our telecommunicators, to our dispatch center? Does it start from where? It can start from anywhere. And then we have a 24-hour window. Sounds good. Everybody works Monday through Friday, right? 8 to 5. What happens, and I know the answer, but what happens when it's Friday evening at 7 o'clock and the neighbor finally got up enough courage to call law enforcement, and law enforcement makes their way there and find that this isn't just a little teeny tiny thing. This is a big deal, and they all are, please don't misunderstand. But it's a terrible situation. I'm quite confident your team is not going to wait 24 hours. And I just am looking for what happens. Please?
So, right, obviously we assess 24 hours is the maximum. There are times we respond in less than an hour, depending on what the situation is and the severity. And you're right, if it happens after hours, 3 of my staff, just 3, rotate on call. And so, because there's special training that has to be done, especially in like sexual abuse cases. So that's all that's available and trained. And so those 3 rotate all 12 months of the year, and they are on call every night and weekend. They share that responsibility. So if something like that happens, they come in and respond.
And that's what I was looking for. It's not just an 8 to 5 issue. This is a big deal. This is an all the time, every day, every minute of every day, every second of every day. And your team, and it is, your team has to be ready to go. And they are. So thank you. Thank you all.
Further discussion? Brad? Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brad, do you have anything else for us?
I have one
this
more
morning?
report for you, and that's Min Choices. So Sarah's gonna come up, and as you might see, Cindy Nienaber is also listed. However, she is stranded on the East Coast, trying to get out of Florida with about 30,000 other people. And I can hardly wait to hear the stories when she gets back. Sounds like tomorrow. It's been an adventure, let's say. So all the relaxing she did for a week might have all been for naught, given the last 4 days, so.
Exactly.
So Sarah is here to talk, and we'll fill in some of the blanks for Cindy as well.
Morning, Sarah.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Sarah?
So Min Choices, first, what is a Min Choices assessment? So this is a person-centered assessment to help people with long-term or chronic care needs make decisions about what they need to support their disability. And so what happens is this is an assessment that will assess a person's needs above and beyond medical assistance or their health plan. So there's certain services that medical assistance or a health plan will cover, but this assessment will help assess things above and beyond what that health plan can do. With the exception of 2 services, and that is developmental disabilities case management and personal care assistance. Those are medical assistant covered, but you have to have this assessment to determine eligibility for. So the next slide just talks about what programs this assessment screens a person for. And I talked about developmental disabilities case management, personal care assistance, and all of the waivers that serve people with different disabilities. So I wanted to talk about what different kinds of assessments that we do, because it can look different all of the time. And so we have assessments that would be considered new, and those are for persons that are interested in receiving either Rule 185, developmental disability case management, PCA services, or waivered services. We have people that come on that need this assistance that haven't received it before, so those would be new assessments. We have reassessments that for any person that receives these kinds of services, they have to be reassessed annually to determine if they're still eligible, if there's a change in their service need. So anybody that receives this service, we then reassess them on an annual basis. We also do what's called change in condition assessments, and those are for persons who might experience a significant long-term change prior to that annual assessment. So if something occurs during that year and all of a sudden their services aren't meeting that need, then we can reassess them prior to the end of that year. We also do 65th birthday assessments, and that's a requirement by the state, and that's really to determine if that person should flip to elderly waiver case management or stay in the under 65 caddy world. So that's a requirement from the state. Some more assessments is an 80-day assessment. So anybody that enters a nursing facility, our assessors have to complete an assessment on or before the 80th day to determine if that placement is most appropriate and work on placing them back into the community if appropriate. That's for the under 65 population only. We also have nursing home assessments. So for people that do need that long-term nursing home placement, we will assess them on an annual basis unless they waive that assessment, and then we have to do that every 3 years. And that's also for the under 65 only. That's just to make sure that people are in an appropriate least restrictive placement. And then we do county of resident assessments. That means there might be people that are residing in our group homes, some of those time excluded facilities, have a case manager and a county that's financially responsible for them, but we do the assessment if they are located here. So for current staff, social services has about 3 full-time assessors. We do have some backup support in public health. That's why you see that .2. The caseload is about 11 to 12 a month, combination between new and reassessments. Those assessors keep those cases until all waiver eligibility is determined. The program is chosen by the family, and then it's assigned to a case manager. Public health has 1 full-time assessor. All the case managers are also certified MinChoices assessors as they do some of their own reassessments. And they do about 5 to 6 per month. That is a error. It's not per year, it's per month. So I brought this in the past, and really Cindy and I wanted to combine the data for you to see as a complete lead agency what our assessments look like for both the under 65 and over 65. So this is starting in 2018 up to 2021 to show the amount of assessments that we have done. Reassessments, county of residence, and new assessments, and then showing our total. As you can see, reassessments continue to increase, and that is due to the needs of our community, more people going on waiver, more people needing this type of service. So you'll see the reassessments have increased per year. County of residence, those ones that I just talked about where we do them for other counties, that fluctuates depending on if they move in and out of our county. New assessments also can fluctuate depending on the need of our community. We saw a little bit of an uptick in 2020 during COVID, a little bit of a decrease in 2021, probably due to COVID and people being in their home and providers. 2022, we've already seen an increase, so I'm curious to see what our numbers are gonna look like there. This next slide, I wanted to show the time it takes for an assessor to do a MinChoices assessment, and I wanted to show this because of the changes in this type of assessment. In 2013, they were doing what's called a legacy document. So this was just a paper document that assessed these persons for these services. In 2015, they started to introduce the MinChoices platform, which is where they have a computer application where they answer the questions and everything is done, and it's a very consuming process. So you can see in 2013 was all that paper document. 2015, they were trickling in the MinChoices, but still some legacy. By 2018, it was all MinChoices. And then you can see in 2021, all MinChoices. You can see the time has increased for the assessors. I'm assuming as we get out of COVID, as I'll talk later in my presentation, that 2021, we didn't do all face-to-face. So once you get back and you're doing face-to-face and you're including travel and all of that again, how much more is that time gonna go up? I should say a face-to-face assessment, we did an average. It takes about average an hour and a half for a new face-to-face assessment, and that was during 2021 when it wasn't all face-to-face, it was phone, video. So I'm curious to pull that number again when we go back to full face-to-face. So that brings me to the COVID waiver. Starting in March of 2020, that allowed phone or video visits for all waivered programs. This is tied to the end of the peacetime emergency, which is currently set to end April 16th, and then it would allow a 60-day transition period. I can tell you we're not doing all assessments, telehealth right now if the client is comfortable. We are doing some face-to-face, especially with new assessments, because it's hard to assess a person that we haven't seen before if we're not in their home, understanding what's going on. But there are some we are still doing telehealth. And the other waiver was modifying requirements to maintain, or it is, sorry, I can't see my own slide. It is about requiring of signatures. Having a person sign their documents, the state waived the ability to not have them sign. If we couldn't obtain the signature, we could case note that. They did take that away at one point, but now just recently they retroacted that back to September 1st, so that is still in place at this time. Next slide is the revenue for MinChoices. MinChoices revenue is based on what's called random moments, and that is a federal and state reimbursement. And so there are some changes to that reimbursement recently, which is why you'll see the difference in the 2021 revenue. they actually decreased the amount of reimbursement, and there was about a 8.9% decrease from 2020 to 2021, which we were not quite aware it was going to be that heavy, so that's why you see the discrepancy between budgeted and actual. The assessors receive about 5 random moments per quarter, or per month, 5 random moments per month per staff. Now this slide, bear with me, this was Cindy's slide, so I'm gonna do the best that I can. I think she did this on purpose, personally. So this is based on the amount of assessments that are done in public health. So public health still, if they are tied to a health plan, will still do some of those legacy documents that I was talking about, paper documents. They're not fully into the MinChoices system yet. With the MinChoices revision project, which I think for the last, I don't know how many years that I've brought this to you, we keep talking about a new platform that's coming. Well, the state keeps delaying that platform. But when it rolls out, all of those health plans have to go to full MinChoices, which means that we are looking at about an 86% increase in MinChoices assessments for our agency based on the amount that are on a health plan. So that's pretty significant. The other thing I should say about the MinChoices revision platform and the assessment time that was in a previous slide, they said they were gonna roll this out like December or January of this year. We started training significantly across the state, a ton of staff time. That occurred in November. They then said, we're not ready, and pulled it back. So it's been frustrating. We're now hearing that it's going to potentially roll out in October of 2022. I'll believe it when I see it, I guess, is where we're at, but that's what this slide is about. Some updates and changes. They are working on the waiver system where they are, instead of having 4 waivers that I talked about earlier, you know, CADI, CAC, DDBI, they're gonna make it into 2 waivers, whether you live in the community or you live in residentially. So it's gonna look quite different. I also wanna talk a little bit about our MinChoices waiver audit that is occurring as we speak this week. We just met with DHS yesterday for the start of this audit. And so they pulled 9 AC cases, which is over 65, 2 BI cases, brain injury, 3 CAT cases, 16 CADI cases, 15 DD cases, and 18 EW cases. So we're currently in the process of that audit. Any questions, comments?
Commissioner Lemire.
You mentioned that, that you're gonna have to increase the amount of assessments that you're gonna have to do, and each assessment, or the assessment hours are like 3,000 hours. How are you gonna, if you're gonna increase almost double, how are you gonna keep up with that?
Good question, and I think that's what we're problem solving is, you know, at what point do we need to look at that? Do we need to consider our staff FTE? Does that need to increase? I don't know, Brad, if you have.
And that's been the challenge because the state keeps pushing it off, and if we would have hired when they said it was gonna start in November of 2021, we'd have more people here not doing what we needed to get done. So Cindy and Sarah and I continue to talk about planning for that time when all of these individuals who are currently on a health plan would then have to have a MinChoices assessment. All counties are gonna have to wrestle with that, and we'll probably do a little problem solving together.
Is there, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lemire.
Is there a plan to streamline the assessment process instead of making it so lengthy?
It's been talked about. Unfortunately, it doesn't ever seem to go anywhere. So part of it is legislatively required in terms of what we have to do for the assessment. And so we're hoping when this rolls out that will be part of the adjustments that are made and that it would be a reduction in time to do all these assessments.
Because it's like 7 times longer
Yep.
to do the same
Yep.
same assessment.
Yes, and I can tell you on intake, if it comes in as a new assessment, we're really working hard on identifying whether or not the assessment is appropriate. The state says a person can get an assessment if they ask for one, but we really try to look at that. You know, is it really needed? Is there other services, and medical assistance services, case management services? Are there other things these people can receive without having to go that high end?
Awesome. Thank you for everything you do.
To Commissioner Lemire's point, and he raises a great question there, but so we understand these directives are coming from state DHS. You know, a lot of this revenue that backs these programs ends up being federal dollars, correct?
Correct.
And so my question is do you guys have a voice at the table with the state of Minnesota and DHS on, you know, as to Commissioner Lemire's point, you know, the effectiveness of what they're asking for and or, you know, what reality is there and what realistically can be accomplished in a timely manner there, you know, or is this the state of Minnesota basically giving you the menu and saying, you know, you're going to like this, so enjoy it. Any thoughts?
The county has had staff involved in developing some of these areas, and us as a directors group have been pretty vocal about just the length of time it takes. DHS has been receptive, but I think, again, the ability sometimes to make adjustments is harder than just getting all this input. So we're at the table. Are they taking our input? Sometimes, but it still is a lengthy process that has not been adjusted since its development and continues to get just a touch lengthier every legislative session.
I think they're hoping with the development of this new platform, they're gonna make it more efficient by having, instead of right now, there's like 3 different computer systems you have to log into, by making it one computer system. My opinion is I don't know how that's gonna reduce what you still need to do to complete the assessment. You're just going into one spot. But I think that's what they keep coming back as. Well, this new platform, it'll be more efficient.
Yeah.
So until that's out, how do we know?
That's one point I'd like to make, because, you know, we say technology is supposed to create efficiencies. In this case, the computer program, that's a direct correlation to why this has increased. So,
Well, we're a little bit leery about what sometimes comes from the state of Minnesota, especially when they talk about efficiencies, because MNLAR still burns heavy in the back of our heads here from that experience. So we're going to hope that this new technology coming forward is not a repeat of that bad dream that we had before. Commissioner Jelinski, you had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sarah, I just have a question. I'm a believer that I learned something during COVID, and I'm a believer that you did too. The belief that I believe we all learned was that we can do parts of our job without being in person, and I know that you and your staff did. You kind of made a comment of full face-to-face, and I get it, so please don't misunderstand. But are we still going to go back to what I say we learned during COVID, that we don't have to put all the miles on, that we don't have to come and visit me, if you will, one-on-one, certainly understanding that, yes, I'm a new person, you've got to see where I live and what I live in order to do an assessment. I understand that. But where we can, are we still going to use, I think one of the terms you used was telehealth, virtually. Are we still going to continue to do things as effective that way as we can?
With the new platform, the state's going to discuss some different requirements that will be just that. Because right now, they discuss it has to be, prior to COVID, it was face-to-face.
Yep.
So they're going to discuss some efficiencies about allowing some of those reassessments to be telehealth, like maybe every other year, you have to be face-to-face or some requirements around that. Those change in conditions that I talked about, they're going to allow those to be phone updates versus face-to-face. So they're talking about some of those efficiencies with the new platform.
some of it does require legislative change, which It's interesting that legislators have had a harder time allowing telehealth, especially in county government, with some of the things we do. But we're working towards maintaining some of those efficiencies we found with COVID and still ensuring the safety, person-centered care of the people we serve.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Further comments? Commissioner Winter, anything?
I do, but you know, we'll go, I just, when you say efficiency, it's just like, yeah, they're making it more inefficient than they are efficient. you
This
know.
has been one of those programs that has,
That's where, you know, concerns me. And again, when you're saying that, then you bring up, well, if they turn to this new, where Min-Choice has to, it sounds like we're gonna have to increase staff. And who's gonna pay for that? you
Right.
know?
The
And
purpose
being
is good.
efficient, you know, so.
the purpose is good for what we learned from these assessments, but I still think it's not as efficient as
Right.
it could be.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Brad.
Gentlemen, why don't we take a 5 or a 7 here, and then we'll proceed. We have a good meeting this morning.
Why wouldn't we? Absolutely.
If they have some, let's say they gotta go to work, and we could watch them. No,
Like once or twice a week?
I don't even know if it'd be that much. Well, and if you do, I don't care. You know what I mean, but she was up there at 8:30 this morning, so I'll see what she.
Just to make sure the social worker knows you.
It's just that they both work, you know, it's just a matter of they need help with it.
Yeah, which is great. Then I better catch you before you worry about the background.
I'm not,
It saves you some time though.
yeah, no, that's fine, yeah, thank you very much. Are you leaving us? Did anything change in the bathroom?
No.
Okay.
This is what it. Didn't say where it was.
Because they were here for because she always has to. I thought it would be up here, but she always has to bring in that it's all right, I guess. I presume that's where it's at.
That's it, 'cause I'm sitting there going, they're not on the agenda. Okay.
It won't be this litter. I got the word of, we do not need 2 dogs. Okay, very good. But I'm still in the thought process. I really would like to see them after they get a couple weeks old. Yeah. You gotta let me know.
That's dangerous.
No, I know, no. I know better. I can't, and I won't. But
Sarah had a lady from New York call or reach out to her. They're looking for starter pups, you know, so they want us to start them for a year and get them potty trained, do some basic obedience and do that. And
so then, in a case like that, whether it happens or not, it's not my place. In a case like that, you would actually keep them for a year, and you would train to whatever degree for that year. Then they either are going to come, they're going to ship, however it's done. That's how that would work.
My daughter does, she takes the dogs in from all over the country to do the same thing, and then she'll train them, but these are mutt pups, you know, and they're like a band.
She's busy?
Always, you know, so, and then they, you know, they get them fixed. I'm sure you would have to do that too, get them fixed if they want them fixed while they're young, and that's what she does, everything there, and then they take them away, and then they pay her to do that. She doesn't do it all the time, but she could be going all the time. Yep. And they get like $200 a piece just for mutt pups. Any kind of breed. You want them from Great Dane down to little Chihuahua. Yeah.
Pocket dogs?
No, yeah, pocket. I go to take them outside.
Pocket dog. Pocket dog.
You can handle yourself.
Keep
I want to go back to yesterday.
Gentlemen, we're going to call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda is the auditor's report. Ms. Robinson, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. First on the agenda, I have today Mudfest 2022 Large Assembly. This is to approve Mudfest with May 25th and 6th, with Mudfest patrons remaining under 500 per day on site. The approval for a variance on Section 5, Subdivision 4, E2 with fencing and barrier requirements. Mudfest is to provide the auditor with a $10,000 bond and commercial general liability insurance covering $1.5 million no later than 48 hours prior to the event. And additional to the safety plan requirements, extra security will be called if determined by a security specialist, supervisor, or a supervisor from the sheriff's office after consulting with the sheriff. You have in your packet the large assembly application, and then from our previous conversation last week at planning session, we do have an updated revised letter of agreement for security specialists. This agreement does meet the same as last year that was provided, that was requested by the sheriff. So that does meet the request.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire to approve the Mudfest application. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second by Commissioner Wilson. Gentlemen, further discussion. Commissioner Winchester.
And again, just to put, we had a great conversation with Mudfest, the Wrinkles, and seems to be going very well, and I'm thankful for how they work with the county and the sheriff's department, so thank you.
Further discussion. Gentlemen, I got to ask the question. We have the sheriff here, and we do have the Wrinkles here. Thank you for being here this morning. When we met at the planning session, there was like it seemed to be maybe a wrinkle to be ironed out. No pun intended there. Between our friends from Mudfest and the sheriff on the safety issues. Sheriff, can you assure us that your communications, that you guys are at a coherent place with things and the ability to work together going forward? Okay. Gentlemen, further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Gentlemen, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Chelsea?
All right, next on the agenda, I have a resolution to adopt county commissioner redistricting plans. The resolution reflects the data from Plan E reviewed in the public hearing. The resolution covers the new county commissioner districts and will set the election terms for each district. If I could, Mr. Chair, read the resolution.
You may, thank you.
Whereas Minnesota statutes, Chapter 375, establishes the procedure and requires a process for redistricting county commissioner districts based on population figures from the federal census. And whereas Minnesota statute, Section 204B.135, Subdivision 2, requires that county commissioner districts be redistricted within 80 days of when legislature has been redistricted, or at least 15 weeks before the state primary election, whichever comes first. And whereas pursuant to these statutes, the 2020 federal census population figures shall be used to redistrict the Morrison County Commissioner districts by April 26th of this year, and commissioner districts shall be bounded by town, municipal, ward, city district, or precinct lines. And whereas the Morrison County Board of Commissioners has considered the possibility or potential for maximizing minority representation on the Board of Commissioners, and whereas Morrison County published a notice 3 weeks prior to the public hearing in the Morrison County Record and conducted a public hearing on redistricting on March 22nd of this year. Now therefore be resolved that the Morrison County Board of Commissioners hereby redistricts the County of Morrison following town, municipal, ward, city, district, or precinct lines as reestablished on April 5th, 2022, and reestablishes the length of terms as follows. District 1 will consume of Motley City, Motley Township, Rosing Township, Scandia Valley Township, Cushing Township, Randall City, Darling Township, Green Prairie Township, Ripley Township, Platte Township. District 2 will represent Belle Prairie Township, City of Little Falls Ward 2, City of Little Falls Ward 3. District 3 will represent City of Little Falls Ward 1, Little Falls Township, Bellevue Township, and Royalton City. District 4 will represent Harding City, Pulaski Township, Richardson Township, Boo Township, Lastrip City, Granite Township, Lee Township, Hillman City, Agram Township, Pierce City, Pierce Township, Genola City, Hillman Township, Mount Morris Township, Buckman City, Buckman Township, Morrill Township, and Lakin Township. District 5 will represent Parker Township, Caldrum Township, City of Flensburg, Pike Creek Township, City of Swanville, Swanville Township, Sobieski City, Swan River Township, Upsala City, Elmdale Township, Bola City, Two Rivers Township. Today we will set the terms of those 5 districts for elections. It will also be resolved that the county auditor treasurer is directed to file the redistricting plan with the Minnesota Secretary of State's office by May 1st of this year to be effective for the 2022 primary and general election and published in the Morrison County Record. It finally be resolved that the districts are, for illustrative purposes, identified in a map of the county attached hereto and marked as Exhibit A, which by references is hereby made a part of hereof.
I'll move on this, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski.
And Mr. Chair, I believe that the resolution, I will certainly move on what the county auditor just gave to us, and we have to fill in term limits. With this motion, I am going to move that Districts 1, 2, and 3 are 2-year terms, District 4 and 5 are 4-year terms, and of course, at the next election, 2 years from now, that Districts 1, 2, and 3 are once again 4-year terms, but because of redistricting, they're 2-year terms. Mr. Chair, that's my motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski and a second by Commissioner Wincher. Gentlemen, further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? Gentlemen, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. The board votes unanimously in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Commissioners,
Chelsea.
thank you. Before we move on, I want to say thank you for making the redistricting process as smooth as possible. It only happens every 10 years, and this was my first time at it, along with you and your roles. So thank you for making it as simple as possible.
Chelsea, I'm going to speak on behalf of the board and say thank you to you and your staff for the work that you put forward in making this decision and in this process as easy as it could be for us. And you took a lot of time to put together maps, to put together scenarios, and especially to keep this board very abreast on the timelines that not only this board is under, but that your office is under in recording this with the state of Minnesota. So this board appreciates all of your work and willingness to help us in this process. Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just have to ask the county auditor a question, and not that I need to know this second, but what happens now? And you know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So what happens now? We've made we've agreed to the resolution. We have our terms identified. Where does it go from here? What happens?
What's next is the question. So
There you go. What's next? There you are. Thank you.
once we have everything signed, I'll submit it to the Secretary of State's office, the resolution and the map. The Secretary of State's office will then update the commissioner districts representation. And then the Auditor Treasurer's office will reflect the changes of the city wards within our election system. So how the lines, if you will, have changed within the city for the wards, that will be done by our election specialists updating and working with our GIS specialists to make sure that we're getting every household address updated. So once that's finalized, then we'll be sending out notifications to all voters within Morrison County of changes. So I'm sure you've received a postcard in the mail stating, you're registered for elections or this is your polling place. So we'll be sending out new cards this year because of the changes with redistricting. After today's meeting, I'll work with the Morrison County Record to publish our plans, and then we should be finalized.
And every single residents in Morrison County then will get that postcard.
Yes.
Correct, okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Commissioner Wilson.
Chelsea, when can we start filing for election? When is that date and?
Yeah. So filings are open the last 2 weeks in March. So, or
May?
excuse me, May.
I was
May.
gonna say,
So
okay.
May 17th, I would have to look at the calendar, but May 17th through May 31st, if that's a 2-week time block. And then it would end at 5 o'clock on May 31st.
Sounds good, thank
So
you.
does it go Sunday through Saturday?
It's a Tuesday through Tuesday, so it's
So it'd be
May
the
17th a Tuesday?
17th?
So the 17th through the 31st?
Through the 31st.
And the 31st, it closes at 5 PM.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chelsea, I want to thank you for giving us those options for the redistricting. I think, you did a great job working with yourself and the city, because again, that's very important to myself as a county commissioner, that we did have options to do that, and I think we made a good decision here for which way we're gonna go, so thank you for that also.
Thank you all.
Any further discussion? Chelsea, you have a couple more things on the agenda?
Yes. Next on the agenda, I am requesting approval for the attached professional services agreement to establish an online election judge training service. We talked at planning, and I did not have the agreement in front of us. So if we go to almost the last page before the signatures, the pricing is on that page. So Exhibit A shows initial course setup is $1,500. That is a one-time charge. And then annual charge per participant per calendar year is $11. That would be the user fee. There is an annual maintenance of $500. And then ongoing, there is an hourly rate for alterations and customizations of $125 an hour. With the annual maintenance fee, that is the cost covering hosting, administrative fees, software license to maintain the online election to be active, if you will. So I don't foresee that the $500 annual maintenance fee is unreasonable. I have discussed this cost with our IT director because when we had to put something together for an online training prior to this, I can tell you more than $500 worth of time has been put into this. I also consulted with the individual who had sent over the agreement, and he explained to me that other counties, not only do they use it for their election judge training, but they have mentioned that it comes in handy when there's special elections. You don't prepare for special elections, but when you have one, it's nice that a user who has already done an election judge training can go back in to that same training and brush up for the special election. Or we've had it where the night before elections, a township or a city says, we're down one man for election judges, right? People get sick, life happens. And so the head judge can emergency judge train an individual. And so this will also become handy for that instance.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Chelsea, I think that this is a win-win all the way around, to be able to do it. This is the world that we live in today. We need to go through judge training, if you will. I've done it before in a classroom. I really do not see an issue other than a lot of convenience to be able to sit down at home, if you will. And I still have the option, if I remember the discussion a week ago, that to come into a classroom at the same time, correct?
That is correct. We'll have in-person training, and we'll have online available. And, you know, we'll learn as we implement this, whether the need or want is in person or online more. So time will tell. Again, you know, I do have this budgeted within this year's budget. And I also wanted to mention too, we have reserve funds earmarked every year for elections that are ongoing. So at the beginning of this year, we had reserved $279,362. We have purchased assisted voting devices along with the Vega funding that we'll be receiving. So remaining, we have $191,346 in that reserve fund specifically for elections, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Further comments? Gentlemen, I'm looking for action by this board to
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. There's a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to approve of this contract. Gentlemen, further discussion? further discussion. Chelsea, I'm just going to make a comment in the sense that, you know, we have a lot of individuals, not just within our county, but across the state who've taken, I'll say, more interest in election integrity, and this becomes an opportunity for individuals to understanding what to physically be able to find out what the understanding is about being an election judge, what it takes to go through to be trained to be an election judge, and then to be able to go through, be trained, be certified as an election judge, and then and have that opportunity to witness the process as we go through the election cycle. Correct?
That is correct. Any questions or concerns that I receive around elections, I always share with the individual. If you have time, become an election judge. You'll learn the process. You'll be hands-on within our democracy here in Morrison County, and the more the merrier. So,
fantastic. Gentlemen, further discussion. If not, we have a motion and we have a second. All those, excuse me, gentlemen, this will be a roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. Aye. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson. With all the commissioners voting in the affirmative, the motion prevails. Chelsea.
thank you. Next on the agenda, I have a request for approval for the 2022 HAVA Help America Vote Act grant agreement for Morrison County to be allocated $27,455.11. This funding is to be used by counties to make any improvements or enhancements to accessibility or security of elections. And on January 18th of this year, the board had approved to apply for the grant, and now we have the agreement from the state for approval. Once approved, then we would receive our funding.
Thank
So
you,
moved,
Chelsea.
Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Wincher. Further discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
Chelsea, can you briefly go over what we're going to do with $27,455.11?
Yes. So I have had some discussions with our administration, technology and maintenance, and we are looking to enhance some doorway security with restricted badge access, additional cameras and data storage, and more ability for front counter voting, along with making sure that if our power were to go out, we would have backup generator in place. And so I am right now working with maintenance and technology to gather quotes to see where we are in line with this funding before bringing it forward. There is no match requirements with this funding. However, if it is over this amount, we can discuss reserve funding that we have earmarked for elections.
Commissioner Jelinski, thank you for your question that refreshes all of our memories as we have had these discussions in previous meetings and in planning session. Further discussion, Commissioner Wincher, anything?
No, I'm good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Wilson.
I don't know if this is appropriate for this particular time, but could you explain to me the process that we go through in voting? I mean, people come up to your office and they'll vote there. How is that all done? I mean, people vote, where do the ballots go? When are they opened? You know, when are things counted? There's been things in the paper before about things that happen. Can you just explain a little bit of the process that we all go through when a township gets done voting? They get done at 8 o'clock. Do they send stuff in to you right away? I don't know.
Sure. I can go over a high overview of your question because there is a lot that it entails. But when we talk about election night with townships and cities, once they close their polls, the election judges at that location are balancing out the ballots, and the results tapes. Once finalized, they'll seal the ballots and bring them in. There's a multiple process. 2 election judges from that precinct will then bring in that information into the auditor, treasurer, or into the courthouse, if you will. And then we have assigned election workers to take in that information. Once that information is brought to us, it is then uploaded. We review the results in our office. We upload it within our election system, and then upload the results to the Secretary of State's office. The ballots are sealed when they come into us, and then they are secured in our election storage room, which is under lock and key. So as far as election night, that's how it goes. You have early voting, which is absentee voting. That starts 46 days before Election Day. So anybody who wanted to vote early could come to the Auditor Treasurer's office and vote. If they are registered or not, they can register. If they're not registered, they can register at our office, and then they can vote. Their ballot would then be sealed in an envelope, security envelope, and then in another envelope. So 2 envelopes. That is then received in by the Auditor Treasurer staff, who is properly trained with election judge training. And then everything is stored again in an election room that is locked under lock and key for election personnel only. And then a week prior to Election Day, we can start processing the sealed or mail ballots or absentee ballots. And then we have the ballot board that is working with those. So they're reviewing, making sure that the envelope is signed. There's multiple steps. The 2 judges that are handling the ballot and the envelope would be initialing the ballot. They would then be opening it, laying it out flat. They would be looking for overvotes or anything like that. If they would have to make a call on, if they voted for one party and then they voted for another party, and then they crossed out one and then they circled one. So then the 2 judges can make the decision what party they're actually voting for, because it won't read in the receipt in the machine. So then there's a process for that. So our office can start initiating 1 week prior, and then we can also do direct balloting. So if someone wanted to early vote that was not in a mail ballot precinct, they can direct ballot in our office if we have the capability. So right now we're working on our front counter, just a little bit of maintenance so that we do have the accessibility for that to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Wilson, on this. And I think, I think what Chelsea did is kind of give us a high overview of this in a very condensed state. And I think, going into this fall's election and the amount of work that's going to be done here in staff, and that, I'm going to entertain the idea of maybe we have Chelsea and maybe one of her staff person maybe come for a planning session. We maybe look at this issue again and maybe some further education on this and the opportunity for us to have dialogue, so that we're just as clear on this and this process. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that? Would you be in favor of that as possibly a planning session agenda item here going forward?
I'm okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Chelsea, my fault. We're not done. Further discussion? If not, gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher. With all commissioners voting in the affirmative, this motion carries.
Thank you. I have one other request that is not within the board packet. I've received a resignation for our account technician position, and so I would like to ask to replace this position.
I make the motion to approve it if you need a motion. Otherwise, I give you the go-ahead.
Well, we just got one. So we have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to authorize Chelsea as the auditor treasurer to seek replacement of this position. Commissioner Wincher.
Could you tell me what or who is an account technician? What do they do?
Sure. Our account technician position is the entry position within our office. It's our front office staff member who serves the public probably the most. Collecting taxes, helping with elections, assisting both myself and my deputy auditor treasurer in reconciling and working with month-end financials. This person is also helping with proofing land transfers and indexing files. So again, it's the entry-level position within our office, but a key player that we have.
Thanks for that explanation.
Sounds to me like it's much more than we need. Good job.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion prevails. Chelsea, we wish you a great day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good day, Chelsea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, next on the agenda is Public Works Report. Mr. Hannon.
Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Tony.
Tony, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I have a few items for you today. We've had a busy couple of weeks at the Public Works. We've had our construction lettings for 3 of the 4 contracts. For our first item here, we're going to go through contract 303. This is our box culverts. So if you review the map there, we have 4 locations. One is actually an Elmdale Township project. Then we have a box culvert on CASA 1, a box culvert on CASA 26, and a box culvert on CASA 47. So if you go to the next page here, this is our bid abstract. Just a summary of the bids provided. You can see we had 5 bidders for this contract: Landwehr Construction, Marvin Treader, Hool Excavating, Midwest Contracting, and Gladden Construction. We had an engineer's estimate for this work as a little over $2 million. Our low bidder came in over our estimate at $2,518,000. You can see the rest of the bids. Our second bidder, Marvin Treader, was very close with Landwehr there. And then the rest of them extend out all the way up to $3.5 million. So what we've seen over the last year, there's been a high demand for box culverts, and the suppliers aren't able to keep up. That's part of the reason I believe we're seeing these higher prices. Talking with the suppliers and other contractors in other counties, I don't think we're going to see any better prices if we were to not award this and relet at a different time. So with that, I'm going to recommend authorizing the resolution to award this contract to Landwehr Construction in the amount of $2,518,000. This project will be funded with state aid money, LBRP, or Local Bridge Replacement Program funds, DNR funds, Township Bridge, and then local funds as well.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher, a second by Commissioner Wilson to approve this contract. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Tony, I kind of know the answer to this.
Yes, sir.
But you'd realize you're on camera now, so
Absolutely.
maybe you could explain briefly, if you can, what's a box culvert and what does it replace?
So a box culvert is essentially a culvert. It goes underneath the center or the road, and it allows a stream to carry underneath the road. In the state of Minnesota, any structure or a box culvert or a bridge is considered a bridge if it's over 10 feet in width. All these structures here are considered bridges in the state of Minnesota. So that's what we're replacing. And the ones we're replacing, they've reached the end of their life. Those roads have been restricted down, so they cannot carry the load that the road's actually set up for, so it's restricted. So say you can't drive a large grain truck or something like that over them. By replacing them, we'll be able to have the full capacity of our highway back.
So in essence, the bridge is gone and it's replaced with the culvert?
Yeah, some of them are culverts, so we're just updating them.
Unless they're being replaced by a culvert,
Correct.
it's a bridge that's being replaced with the culvert.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, very good. That's all I need, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Commissioner Lemire.
Yeah, Tony, we had a great discussion last Friday on these contracts, and if you could just explain, the engineer's contract, the engineer's estimate was a little bit lower than the actual estimate. Can you explain where you're getting the extra dollars to fund the difference?
So we did have some funding available inside our fund sources here, but we also reached out to the local bridge replacement program, and they were able to add in some additional funding for our structures. And then the township structure, that's funded through the township bridge program, and the township participates in about $10,000, and then the rest is covered by that. So the additional cost over estimate on their structure doesn't come outside of our budget.
Very good, and we appreciate you reaching out for them extra federal dollars to accommodate this, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Gentlemen, this is a roll call. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
And the chairman votes aye. All commissioners voting in the affirmative, this motion prevails.
Our second item here is in reference to the past resolution to award that project. So what this resolution's for is to authorize and execute an agreement between the local bridge replacement program to accept the grant funds. This resolution is specific to CSAH 26. In this case, we're going to be receiving $305,000 for the replacement of that structure.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by
Second.
Commissioner Wilson. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, this is a roll call. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
All commissioners voting in the affirmative, this motion prevails. Mr. Hennon.
Our third item here, again, is in reference to the first awarded contract, Contract 303. This is a resolution to execute the agreement authorizing local bridge replacement program grant funds for CSAH 47. In this case, we'll be receiving $436,000 to help aid in the replacement of that structure.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski and a second by Commissioner Wilson to approve this contract. Further discussion? Further discussion? Further discussion? This is a roll call. Commissioner Winchell. Aye. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
The chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
All those commissioners voting in the affirmative, the motion prevails. Mr. Hennon.
Our last item is in reference to a second letting we had last Thursday on March 31st. This is our bituminous program contract, Contract 302. What this is approximately 34 miles of paving throughout Morrison County. Review the maps here. We have quite the program this year. 34 miles really adds up. We have CSAH 76, County Road 214, County Road 229, County Road 230, County Road 233, County Road 234, County Road 259, County Road 265, County Road 287, County Road 43, CSAH 52, County Road 258. So the next page here will be our abstract. This contract, we had two items. We had a base bid, and then we also had an alternate. Our intentions there were to, if the bids didn't come in as we were hoped for, we would remove the alternate and award less project. We were actually very lucky that the projects came in underneath our estimate. We had two bidders on this contract, Knife River and Central Specialties. For our base bid, we had an engineer's estimate of $3,578,559.20, and the low bidder for the base bid was Knife River at a total of $3,377,184.41. And then our second bidder behind them, Central Specialties, came in a little over $4 million. With the Knife River coming in low, they're actually 5% roughly underneath our engineer's estimate. Now with the alternate, so that the abstract for this next portion is for the base bid and the alternate together. So here we had an engineer's estimate of the amount of $4,210,655.70. Again, the same two bidders completed this, Knife River and Central Specialties. Knife River came in with a low bid of $3,964,770.73. Central Specialties came in a little over $5 million. Knife River was the low bidder there. With the bids coming in the way they did, I'm recommending to award both the base bid and the alternate. So I'm requesting authorization for resolution to award contract 302, including the alternate bid to Knife River in the amount of $3,964,770.73. This is funded with state aid funds and local funds.
Mr. Chair, I'll approve contract 302 with the alternate bid.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. Motion by Commissioner Lemire and a second by Commissioner Jelinski. Gentlemen, further discussion. Further discussion. Tony, you did a fantastic job in preparing our knowledge base on this in your presentation to the board at the Public Works meeting. This is an aggressive agenda and probably one of the bigger undertakings the county has seen. And we hope for good weather for you and the contractors here to be able to accomplish this this year. Thank you for your patience with us and our questions in getting full understanding. Further discussion? If not, gentlemen, this is a roll call. Gentlemen, the chairman votes aye. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher? Aye. Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
With all of the commissioners voting in the affirmative, contract 302 is approved. Mr. Hennon,
I have
anything else?
No, sir.
We wish you a great week. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Tony.
Pile of work.
Oh, yeah.
He's bored over there.
It's gonna be a big program. They're gonna be busy. Thank you.
See you,
Gentlemen,
Tony.
thank you. Mr. LeBlanc, we look to you for the administrator's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, as I continue to learn my position and find solutions in our personnel policies, if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to highlight paragraph 5.08 in regard to hiring of new employees.
Please continue.
So in the past, I was confused of if we had to come in forward in front of the board to request a hiring or if there was another form for it. So as 5.08 reads, department heads shall not notify the board of vacancies and must receive prior authorization to filling vacancy. However, consistent with Minnesota Statute 38714, the county sheriff need not get county board authorization before filling positions, as long as the position being filled was specifically identified and approved by county board as part of the current year's budget. County board approval or consensus is understood to include authorization to hire up to the midpoint of the salary range to temporarily backfill the vacancy during the recruitment process, if necessary, to fill a vacancy caused by termination of probationary employee, and to fill any subsequent internal vacancies created because of an internal hire. So, Mr. Chair, plan going forward, what I would like to do is just, it's to receive authorization. My request is that for a forecasted loss, we come forward to planning for discussion, and if the board approves or it's non-contentious, excuse me, then we would enter it as a consent agenda item for the following week, board.
Very good.
Yep. Good explanation.
Thank you for doing that, Matt.
And other than that, any questions or requests to the board, Mr. Chair?
Gentlemen, anything for our administrator?
Nope.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. I turn to our chief clerk. We need to update our schedules here. Tabitha, you got dates for us that you want us to review?
April 10th through April 23rd.
April 10th through April 23rd. Commissioner Jelinski, start us off.
As, this is what I've got, Mr. Chair, so far. On April 12th at 8:30 in the morning, we've got a planning meeting here at the Government Center. At 1 o'clock that same afternoon, I believe we've got an egg zoning discussion here again in this room. At 6 o'clock that evening, there's a Planning Commission Board of Adjustments meeting, again in this room. On the 13th at 8:30 in the morning, there's a department head meeting, at the Government Center. On the 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Next Gen 911 virtual call, meeting, I guess. On the 18th, it's Dingus Day on the 18th, and I'm confident everyone knows what Dingus Day is, so I'll leave that alone. On the 19th at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's County Board. On the 20th, at 3:30 in the afternoon, I have a State Emergency Communications Board meeting. It's an executive committee meeting. At 5 o'clock that same evening, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting. Both of them are virtual. The 21st, 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Owners and Operators meeting. That's virtual. 22nd, I have Earth Day written down. That's all. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. Commissioner Winger.
All right, above and beyond that, for our chief director.
The
over there,
10th?
The Great River is canceled, there will be no Great
Yeah,
River for next month, or this coming month. And then on the 22nd, I have Soil and Water here at 8 o'clock, and that takes care of me.
Thank you, Commissioner Winger. Commissioner Lemire.
I'm sorry if someone said this, but did anybody say the egg zoning on the 12th? Okay.
At 1 o'clock.
Yes, at 1 o'clock. 20th, I have Public Health, virtual, 5 o'clock. 21st, I have Long Prairie 1 Watershed 1 Plan Policy Committee, Todd County Historic Courthouse, 9 o'clock a.m. And that's all I have to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
On the 19th, I got community development at noon. On the 20th, I got student recognition for Sourcewell up at
Madden's on
Madden's. Yep. And the 21st, I got airport at noon. And the 22nd, I got Mississippi Headwaters at 10 o'clock in Walker.
Is that it? Super. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Yes, and I have that Students of Character celebration on the 20th at Madden's. Also, I'm planning to be there with you, Commissioner Wilson. And the only other thing I can add to the calendar is on Thursday, the 21st, the Egg Society will meet at 7 p.m. And I believe they will be meeting here. And if I find that changes, I will let you know, Tabitha. Anything else, gentlemen, regarding the schedules? Gentlemen, is there any other business to come before the board this morning? Anything else? If not, gentlemen, I will adjourn this meeting at 10:58.
Good job.
Da, 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 da.